Liberlandians, what's going on? This is Adam J. Carswell coming to you from a rainy Ontario at the moment of this recording, but this right here is going to be an intro snippet for this episode. I recently interviewed Boon Chu of CuriosityLab.ai on AnCap Radio. And if you haven't checked out AnCap Radio, go to our website, ancapradio.com for more information. And I'm rolling with the crew here. Got my son and our dog as I make this. But I wanted to share this interview on the Liberland show because it was very, very good. And I think you guys would really enjoy it. So without further ado, let's play the episode. Boom, and we are back here live. You know, it's funny. As soon as I say boom, I might confuse you guys this week because our guest's name is Boon with an N, Boon. But anyways, boom, we are back here live for another episode of AnCap Radio. I'm your host, the voice of liberty, Adam Carswell. Good to have you all here. If you're tuning in with us live, welcome back. If you're with us on the replay, welcome back as well. Make sure you hit that like button, the retweet button. Want to get this one out to as many eyes and ears as possible in the AnCap space. Love rocking with you guys. Here we go live every Thursday, as you know, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's lunchtime, noon in Los Angeles, California. I know it's kind of funny to say anarcho-capitalism and Los Angeles in the same sentence, but I know a few solid AnCaps out there, right, guys? We're all over the world, and we're coming to you live here now from Ontario, Canada, where I'm at, and our guest is in the Big Apple, New York City. We're going to get a little bit on his background here in a moment, but again, if you're new to the show, I want to remind you, and our team's going to drop this down in the thread below. Be sure to subscribe to AnCap Radio email updates. We are working on a lot of really cool things behind the scenes now. I know I feel like a broken record saying that, but I'd say really in the next 3 to 6 months, you guys are going to see some massive changes here, and we'll be sure to, unveil those with you as we continue on this journey. So today's guest, Boon Chu, a little background on Boon. Him and I first got connected about 3 years ago when I had him on my personal podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with my regular show, I guess you could say, or I don't even know what the right word is, but my original show, Dream Chasers. Just do a Google search, Dream Chasers, Adam Carswell. You'll find the show that kind of started it all for me. I had him on 3 years ago. Mutual friend connected us. He's like, hey, you got to meet this guy named Boon. He's doing some really cool things in the tech space, and I think you guys would hit it off. You'd make a great hit for your show. I looked at our email threads, Boon, and I realized that you and I played email tag for a few months before we finally got you on the show. But I'm happy we did because we made that connection then. Now we're back here live. We're on AnCap Radio, and we're going to talk about something that you are building out called the Curiosity Lab, CuriosityLab.ai. To our team, if you guys could drop that in the thread below so people can check it out along the way as well. Super interesting. And I just want to say, Boon and I, we hit it off on this topic in particular because we both have kids. As you can see, that's not Boon in his profile picture. I mean, it's a version of him, right? But he's building a future for his kids and for others, especially in the AnCap space. So, Boon, without further ado, I would like to pass it over to you. And if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about your background and then also, kind of how you feel like you became an AnCap. We'll go from there.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me. So yeah, my background, I was born in Malaysia and I came to the US with my family after high school. And yeah, so I started out as a game programmer and, after going through a few different jobs at Microsoft and Amazon, I started my own thing, doing like app development. And so I had some good success there because I got into the space quite early and gradually sort of took the experience and the skills to start working with bigger brands like iHeartRadio and Discovery Channel and Walmart and big brands like that. And through some sort of fluke, I have some folks are basically approaching me to basically help them launch. And gradually, I pivoted my business, my company to help primarily startups. So basically, it went from an agency to become a venture studio. So, and I work with founders on sort of a cash equity basis to help them launch because they don't have a lot of cash. And from that experience, I actually learned a ton because I realized that there's just so much innovation that goes on, and when it comes to working with uh, founders versus big brands. So I helped build one of the world's actually the world's first friendship and dating app for the autistic community, and also done a bunch of other really highly innovative products. One of which is called Pepper, and that was launched like 2 years ago. It's kind of like a social cooking app for Instagram. You upload your food recipes, and I think they have a ton of users now, like 1 million users now. So yeah, so I love the space, and that's kind of my background. I'm the founder of Tapal Media, which is a venture studio, and within that venture studio, we also launch companies actively. And Curiosity Lab is one of the sort of the products a company spawned from the venture studio, and it came about because my son was complaining about school being boring, and so I thought, hey, let's just do something there to help him because I don't see a sort of path forward relying on the traditional education. So I just went ahead and started the school. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. And as you know, I've got two little ones that aren't really at the any type of school level, but I'm pumped that you're doing this now because I feel like by the time they are able to start diving in, this will be ready to go. Again, guys, check out the link in the thread at CuriosityLab.ai so you can kind of follow along with what Boon is building. Immediately as I land on the page, I would say the biggest anime fan, but like I love that that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. I do like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon a lot just from growing up. So Yu-Gi-Oh too. Now I think about it. So anyways, let's talk about that actually. Where did the inspiration to kind of make it like a gaming anime type of, like that's the vibe that you get just from landing on the homepage, right? So where does that all come from?
Yeah, it didn't happen like that right away. So when I first started sort of researching the education space after my son complained about school being boring, um, I realized that the school hasn't changed. Like it was pretty much the same as the school that I went to. Um, Although, of course, there are some differences, but the key thing is that it's still utilizing more of a factory model. And so once I realized that, and also because me being in a tech space, I understand how fast things are moving with AI and everything. I know this is not a viable path. If you were to do this kind of education 10, 20 years ago, it's still kind of be okay. I mean, it's still not optimal, but you can still kind of survive. But now with the whole AI, I can see that there's just no path forward with that. With that. So once I started looking into it, I started looking at alternative solutions, and there have been a lot of people experimenting with different type of education, like homeschooling, and including different type of schools out there that are using very different models. So I started collecting like tidbits of just different things that people are doing, and including the concept of hero, sort of being on a like hero on a journey. And I start realizing that a lot of that stuff it's very similar to the sort of the game development experience that I have. And there's a certain reason why games are so sort of appealing to a lot of people. And so I start realizing that from talking to educators and friends and all of that, that for this to be education doesn't have to be boring. In fact, it should be fun. So, and we all know that games are fun. And so by borrowing some of the elements from games, I can sort of change sort of how education is approached. So that's sort of the genesis of that. And again, I'm taking elements of things that I see from different experiments, different schools that people are doing. As this process is still ongoing. I'm still taking clues from the things that people are doing, but just to get an idea, I mean, the fact that how AI can render a lot of things essentially, I mean, I don't want to say useless, but it's going to change a lot of things, in a short amount of time. I was able to launch a school from conception to like the finished product, so to speak, in about a few weeks, right? The website, the including the creation of the website and the copy, everything that you see on the website, all the sort of the business stuff I have to set up, including onboarding people, the kids, to the point where the school is making a money profit, cash flow positive in the first month
Can I just
of
say,
it
in the world
running.
of anarcho-capitalism, that's
Yeah,
that's really what we want for everyone. So that's good to hear. You're not trying to,
yeah.
there's people like, oh, it's a not for profit. There's Everyone look up Myron Golden if you haven't heard of him. In fact, Myron's good enough with his messaging. He's probably, I would consider him an AnCap to our team. If you guys could drop a Myron Golden YouTube link below. But he's like, anytime somebody tells me they're getting to launch a nonprofit and like they're new in business, he says, nonprofit. How about you launch a for profit? Like you are
Yeah.
trying to make money, right? So, anyways, go back over to you.
Yeah, so the school is actually profitable in the first month, like literally within a few weeks after I launch, it's profitable. So I started realizing that wow, I mean, if I would this would not be possible if not for AI. So there's a lot of sort of things to be said about combining human and AI together. And I saw when I saw how fast I was able to execute that whole thing and get it off the ground in such a short amount of time and create a business that's profitable, I know this is the right way to go. I mean, I know that this has to be done right now. So um, in terms of how I became an ANCAP, it's interesting because I didn't know that I was one until you mentioned to me like a few days ago. So I think it comes down to, and again, I still don't know, the full definition of it, but um, I knew, that first of all, I'm not like super, like I don't really follow politics so much, or maybe I should say that I've certain disdain about being in a certain camp like the two camps, right, like the two big camps. So because I feel like there's just so many different issues and there's kind of like a spectrum on things as well. And so when I the way I see it is that I mean when I look at all the spectrum, the one that I really relate the most to based on my personal core value is libertarian. And so when you mentioned that, then I know right away, okay, I think this is my personal core beliefs and stuff like that. This would be a camp that I belong to because I think just the nature of it, right? Because the very fact about ANCAP is you are, again, I might get the definition wrong because I just got to know it recently, but that I think you're questioning things instead of just being, kind of sort of accept things as they're given to you. And I see a ton of value in terms of questioning things because if not for that, I would not be starting a school, right? Because you're questioning if the education is being done correctly or not. So I think it comes down to sometimes personality, sometimes mental framework about the world. All of that would play a part in one person becoming an NCAP.
Yeah, man. There's no way we're gonna have enough time for all the questions. I know I have at least on my end for today's show. And by the way, for those tuning in, again, whether you're with us live or on the replay, always around the 30-minute mark, we open up the floor for callers, questions, comments for Boon and myself here today. So get your questions ready if you do have any. I'm looking at the team here. I'd love to know how you put the team together. I'd love to know what's the approach from an online, in-person kind of hybrid perspective. Um, and just kind of and go from there. So tell us about the team, and then also like where are the students coming from or logging in from?
Yeah, so the team, like I said, the whole thing happened really quickly. I put together the whole business, everything in a few weeks. So, and I know that I have, it's leverage, right? Like this is even though it's right now it's only in the form of after school, it's still a big initiative for someone like me who is not in the education space. So I know I need to leverage someone else for, to make this execution as good as can be in such a short amount of time. And so I basically look up my network and, look at friends and people that I know and start striking, like just hitting them up and say, hey, you want to be a part of this? Do you want to help me out on this? And it turns out that a lot of people, um, more than probably you would think, are very passionate about the education space, regardless of what they do, because they either have kids and they care about that a lot, or
Well, let
they
me.
are
I'm
helping
just going to
kids.
say
Yeah.
this now, Bill, and I'm going to throw my
Yeah.
name in the hat for athletic director whenever that day comes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, like I said, the whole team thing. There's a lot of. I mean, going, on the question of team, like I said, there's a lot of issues even with the current education space about how why things are so slow to change because everything is top down, right? So even that point, I'm sort of like trying to create a team that is agile and that is like we can change it based on. And so I don't want to have a fixed structure where And this you see that a lot with a lot of things out there where someone holds a position and they never let go, and that's usually bad for that may not be the best most of the time for whatever it is that you want to do. But human nature sometimes is that we're a territorial animal. We want to protect that. And so when I started this school, I knew right away. I said I need to change not just how education is done, but the even from the administration side, how things should be structured, from that. So this whole thing is being examined constantly, and the team that you see right now is, not necessarily the team that's going to be tomorrow. I'm constantly adding, modifying, all that. But again, the mantra here is to do it before you're ready. I always tell people don't wait until you get all like just jump into it, do it, and then change as you go. So but a lot of the folks that are in there, I know one of the things I want to do with the team is that I want highly, highly qualified people because I feel like the way with education right now is that you get a fixed payroll of teachers, professional teachers, but that doesn't really fit the bill with the world that we're in right now. What we want, at least in my opinion, what the thing is, you have guides that orchestrate the execution, but then you bring in professionals to come in and do the sort of knowledge downloading because there's just so much knowledge about so many new things that are popping up, and you can't really rely on a fixed sort of staff to deliver that. So again, the team here is more to me is they're more like guides and advisors, and and really the true heroes, the true people, that are going to be sort of changing, the landscape will be the professionals that I'll be bringing into. So that's why you see one of my friends, Steve Breen, he's a two-time Pulitzer Prize winning editorial cartoonist. And I brought him in because we have one quest called Storybook Quest, where we help kids publish books on Amazon and sell them. And again, this is something which is to me is interesting because this is very rare. I mean, you can't even name one person in your life that adults or kids that have published books, and so I want to make that a commonplace. I want kids to be not just reading books, but actually be exposed to creating books and then publishing it. But I don't want them to publish uh, low quality because my whole life is all about projects. My whole life is all about delivering commercial projects. So I want to bring that to the kids as well and say, just because you're kids doesn't mean you cannot create high quality commercial, like projects with commercial value. And in order to do that, we need to have high quality people to guide them that for that last mile delivery. And that's kind of the sort of the guideline that I use when I form the team.
Right. Having that approach, it's even got me thinking like, as someone who, we'll just use basketball as a reference because that's a sport that I did play just throughout my whole life. It would have
Mm,
been cool looking back on it if, maybe when I was playing in third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, if my coach was like an upperclassman,
right.
like teaching kids how to coach instead of hiring, getting the parents or whoever, hiring a coach, and that's fine too. But I'm just thinking like a someone who's in ninth grade could very easily coach a team of third graders, and it gives them
Yep.
that like firsthand experience of coaching. It's just rethinking everything, which is really cool. I don't know if you answered it. Like, do you have to be in the New York Tribeca area to be involved, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So right now, the physical schools, I'm doing that in New York because I'm here. So it's the quickest way for me to find locations and get guides to start, doing the quest.
And it's great. It's a great
Um,
location, just as far as like people and
yeah, a great,
population.
exactly, good location because New York is interesting because it's a very dense, place with a lot of talented people in one spot. So it's actually perfect for something like that, for me to sort of experiment with this concept. I've already, like, I just spoke to someone who is in this fashion space a couple of days ago. And she's going to be helping me launch a fashion quest and, teach kids how to design clothings and, bags and stuff like that. So, it's a very interesting, space with a ton of talents, people with dreams, right? They are all like congregating here. So it's good for that. But I'm also experimenting with people outside of New York as well, but more in a different mode. For example, I have one person I'm working with right now, that he is from Nigeria originally. He's in Dallas right now, and we're testing the model of doing sort of online one-on-one Zoom sessions with the kids, Nigerian kids, being taught by Nigerian teachers on different subjects. So that's because they want a lot of people, immigrants who are here, they don't want to lose, especially the parents, they don't want the kids to lose their root, right? Like you don't want to sort of not know the native language, so we're kind of using that fact to kind of test that mode out. And then I'm also doing another pilot with some kids in China as well. And the concept there is that they get to mingle with kids from the US, so they can talk about, cross-cultural, international topic. We have one quest coming up, which is very unique. It's more of and this is something you will not have, it's just, you're not can find anywhere. It's literally a topic. The quest is like on wandering, right? Like it's so important for someone to consider wander. Like right now, everything that you see as a topic, like you learn science, you learn chemistry, you learn that, but there's never a topic on just wandering around, like just kind of like just go into different topics. And I think there's a lot of value in just sitting down and just touch on whatever topic that you can think of, and then if you decide to go deep, you can go deep on it. So that's a topic that's a quest we're experimenting with right now.
Yeah, what's there's like a famous phrase. I think it's "those who wander are not lost" or something like that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. You're right. Everything is so rigid with how the traditional system is. I think even with certain things like Montessori schools and kind of other alternative variations of the educational system, they're all still a little bit following the same model. So,
Yeah.
what's your degree in wandering? I mean, I don't know if I take it
Yeah.
that far, but like, who knows? Like that,
Yeah.
wandering is basically an extension of brainstorming, right? And so,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah, you wander, you explore, you touch on different topics, and the topics that you gravitate towards, you can talk about it some more. And so, the thing that I think is useful but not enough these days for kids is they don't have enough time to have meaningful and a broad conversation with adults that care about them. Adults
On,
these
on,
days are just yeah,
I was just saying, on the note of wandering, like one thing that comes to mind for me personally, and I look back on my life, and in a way, I kind of wandered to Belize, Central America, after finishing up, college or whatever. And
mm,
that was an eye opening experience. I'm wondering, at what age do you think the kids going through the program would be capable of going out into the world and traveling and wandering and like seeing different countries, that especially countries that we aren't typically encouraged to go to. It's
mm.
always kind of boring when you go somewhere, in my opinion, and then you get the tour of the city that you're in instead of just going and figuring it out on your own. So, is there any like vision for that piece once the kids are bigger?
Yes, and so this is another thing we're tackling too, right? Like when we get into, say, one of the topics we might touch on in the Wandering Quest could be, hey, let's. I mean, it's not just pointless conversation on random topics, right? I mean, we could get into one of the sessions we'll be touching on. Hey, let's come up with a set of phrases and vocabularies that if you were to master those, you can literally drop yourself in any country and survive, right? And what are those phrases? Explore that, right? This is a set of phrases that you can say. Can you tell me where to go? Can you how do I say a certain word in a particular language that I know, right? So if you know these phrases and these vocabularies, technically there's a finite set of things that you need to learn, and once you learn that, you can get around. And I know that because when I traveled to France and I picked up a set of phrases and I was able to survive just based on that. Because, some French people don't like you to start a conversation with, English. They intentionally, pretend like they don't know. But the moment you start a conversation in French, they would answer you in English. So, and so just knowing those phrases to allow you to get around and get the answers that you need, this is kind of like a discovery type of thing, right? Like it's like you learn something that allows you to open a door to something else. So, yes, absolutely. I think letting kids be exposed to, I mean, a lot of times it's the mindset as well. It's the fact that like when you grow up and you're taught by adults that you don't want to talk to strangers, then chances are you don't feel like you're gonna go out like when you're still young because it's like why would I go out and talk to even more strangers, right? So sometimes even one little lesson can affect the decision that you make in life, such as the stranger type thing. And so what we do in some of the quests is like, hey, as we're working on the storybook quest, we'll have them reach out to say a children books author, and then we organize some certain things behind the scene, and then the children's books author would respond to them. So what they learn from that is like, oh wow, when I reach out to someone, a stranger, some of them will actually respond to me and offer to help me with things. So once they learn that, they learn to be resourceful, and they learn that talking to stranger, if they can know how to judge what's the right stranger to talk to, they would be open to that. And once they're open to that, then they're open to traveling and meeting these strangers.
So how I'm wondering. Well, one we gotta bring this up to Dave, and I know our team is gonna crack up when they hear this, but I could totally see Professor Dave Henderson teaching the kids AnCap philosophy 101. So we might have to
Yes.
get that in there. But how do you have you guys had any challenges with the state? What I mean by that is like there's obviously the traditional education system. If the kids aren't in like a if the kids aren't in the government indoctrination camp, I know sometimes the state will like come knock on your door and be like, hey, child protective services, what's up, where are the kids at? Have you guys had to deal
Mhm.
with any kind of like just BS from the traditional system?
With the school that we have right now?
Right.
Not right, no, because these are all sort of the way it's set up right now is after school. It's not full time yet. But we have system in place for parents to sign up and all of that. So there's no everything is very sort of done in the formal way right now. So yeah, we don't have any issues like that.
What's the vision and time frame? And I'm kind of like selfishly asking, what's the vision and time
Yeah.
frame for it to be full time?
Yeah, so the full time obviously is a much more involved endeavor. And a lot of parents have, like the traditional sort of timeline is that they would start enrolling in September, and then they usually start taking application by say November or December, depending on the school. I'm not sure about the public school. This is at least a private school system is like that. And so either way, a lot of people have already decided like where their kids are going to go to, a year ahead of time. So the earliest that we think we can launch is next year, which is 2025 September. Which is good. It gives us more than a year to prepare. And so I would say that would be the earliest if we were to launch, and if we were to, the latest would be a year after that, right? That would give us plenty of time to raise funds, to develop the technology that we need, find the venue and all of that stuff. So absolutely, I think 2026 is for sure it's going to go out, but there's a like high likelihood that it could go out next September.
Nice. And what I do full time is always asking people, how much capital do you need to raise to make that happen? So I'm
Yeah.
curious, do you happen to know what the rates
No,
would
I
look like?
don't right now. I'm kind of sketching out the big dream version first and then scale down from there if I need to. So I'm going wild with the execution right now. Like I'm just combining many, many different things into it, right? Like because as you know, I mean, starting a school, there's a lot of sort of philosophy, a lot of things that goes into it. For example, like if I'm going to be combining a lot of, say, neuroscience principles into it, meaning you have to be fit. You have to be, because the thing is, this is not going to be a school that is just teaching you core subjects. Like when I look at the AI era, it's you really need the kids to be learning a complete set of things now. First of all, they have to really focus on all the fundamentals, like knowing how to take care of yourself, knowing how to communicate, knowing how to persuade, all those things that AI cannot necessarily do for you. So, in order to have a healthy body and have healthy mind, so I can prepare you to be a better learner, I need to design this. We need to design the space in such a way that we can optimize learning. So there might be a rock climbing thing. You might have to climb your way into the classroom. Stuff like that, right? We have to think through all of that stuff, to make sure that that we have a system where the guides and the students are all in a sort of optimal state to learn and to grow. So um, yeah, so the question is, we're still figuring the that part out, but I'm going very sort of grand scheme right now to say that, hey, I might need, say $10 million, $20 million to launch a school. But of course I most likely won't need that, but I'm starting with that vision to say, hey, if I have unlimited funds, what would the school look like? And if I don't, how can I sort of, sculpt that accordingly?
I love it, man. So it is. We're at the halfway mark. So for those tuned in, if you do have a question or a comment for Boon, all you got to do is tap that microphone button, bottom left corner, and get you up here and take it from there. Again, this is AnCap Radio. If you're just tuning in or on the replay, be sure to hit that like button, the retweet button. We are with Boon Chu, the founder of CuriosityLab.ai, and we're going to go ahead and keep this thing rocking. So one thing that comes to mind for me, Boone, is just knowing your professional background as well and everything that you kind of got your hands in. I'm always curious to know like what are people's secrets, what are their hacks to be able to accomplish big things, and not like flood themselves from a time commitment perspective, kids, etc. Obviously, this one is focused on kids too, but like how are you
Mm.
finding yourself the ability to maintain scaling this while running your other business?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is you understand that you cannot do everything by yourself. I think that's the biggest problem with most people is to try to do everything by themselves. And the truth is that, there are so many things that in life that people can do better than you. So you just have to learn to be a good orchestrator, someone who will orchestrate, the effort. But so I think it depends on the role you're taking, right? Sometimes you can be the role of a visionary. Sometimes you can be the role of someone who is, on the ground floor doing. And especially with me doing all these things, it would not have been possible if not for the support of all my teammates. They really help run a lot of things for me. Otherwise, I would probably won't even have time to come to this interview. So for me, I think it's really just being with good people and people that you can trust that help you, with things that to free you up to, to do the things that they cannot do, right? So they can do the things better than you on the things that, so then you let them do it and then you do the things that they cannot do, or you do the things that is more on the visionary side of things. So um, if done correctly, there's actually a ton of time to because I think once you get to a point where you are doing a lot of this visionary decision making type thing, is all these high impact decisions don't take like 8 hours a day to do. I think what comes down to is actually that you have to kind of optimize yourself in a way. When I say optimize, I mean you have to have a healthy lifestyle, right? In order for you to be able to be, come up with good, ideas and make the proper decisions. And it may only take an hour or 2 hours a day to do that, and the rest of it is just you um, you know, um, like I have a set of routines that I follow every day, and those routines, like those morning routines, and it's so very important for me to really make sure that. And so I think when it comes to the question that you have about having time, I think people have to look for ways to automate that to buy time, because otherwise there's just too little. If you try to do everything by yourself, there's just not much you can do in a day. There's just not enough time.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's finding there's let's say kind of a famous marketer out there. I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Brunson at all, the founder of ClickFunnels. And one thing I know he's
Yeah.
really big on. Yeah, he's awesome, and we've gotten to know a lot of people in his circle, and he's just really big on finding your voice and helping others find their voice, finding their path. Mike Termott, who was on the show recently, talked about all of us as libertarians, ANCAPs, whatever you want to call us, but just as humans. Uh, the
Mm,
key is to find your path and what you're most aligned with. That's really the ultimate
yeah,
joy of life too. So, and when you can do that, then like to your point, you're able to leverage um, other areas. And I'll use a brief example to just to validate what you're saying. But like and I don't know if I think I did talk to you about this briefly, but like I make house music, I make electronic music. Which, by the way, if anyone listening
mm,
right now, if you didn't know that, just shoot me a DM. I'll send you some of my stuff. But I've been able to like really scale that and have fun with it because I can afford to like pay for a coach to help me take the fast track. Whereas I know there's other artists and DJs out there who are like, taking every gig they can get, washing dishes, whatever, because I'm good at what I do full time. I can kind of like
Mm.
fast track myself into having fun and making great music along the way. So it's all about just zoning in on really that one thing or just a couple things that you're really good at, and then to Boone's point, building teams around you and trusting people, because that is a big thing. And you kind of started with that. You said some people try to do it all themselves. That's kind of a trust issue, right? Like you need to be able to put faith into others, because otherwise it's not coming back to you either. So um, I have a question from the audience. I know the person who asked this is also he's gonna chuckle a bit here. But my buddy Mark from the Philippines had a question. He's wondering. He has a 7-year-old daughter who's very adventurous and probably be a good fit for Curiosity Lab. So, is the only way for her to get started now to move to New York, or are you guys looking at the virtual
Yeah,
aspect?
this is actually a very good question. So the goal of Curiosity Lab is to have it go worldwide, international as quickly as possible. So what I mean by that is the way it's set up, I mean, the system itself is actually very scalable. Um, it actually doesn't require, say, a full-time teacher to be guiding the session. So we have framework that people can. So literally, Mark, if he has time and the desire, I can actually work with him to start a Curiosity Lab in Philippines tomorrow, right? And give him the tools that he needs to start creating some quests for his daughter and friends and even people onboard new people. Because the reason why this is useful is because I think um, that we know that there's important the importance of social interaction, right? That's why I'm not really like I don't really want we don't really want Curiosity Lab to just be a online only platform because there's a certain there's a lot of value you get from being able to learn and work with someone in person. And so like we have a framework on how to do that, and we don't need to be tied down by, oh, you need to have this certain type of credential in order for this to happen. No, actually, we and so that's the beauty of it. Like we have many ways to really be starting Curiosity Lab in different countries, and if there's we have a tech team as well. So if there's any tool that we need behind, because the Curiosity Lab, the domains ends with AI, and part of it is that we're also introducing AI into it. And the availability of AI actually makes personalized learning possible because not there's it doesn't matter what teacher you hire, the person's not going to know everything. So when you combine AI and with a person like a guide, a lot of things can happen. A lot of personalized learning can happen. So like I said, without the ChatGPT type of thing, a lot of things that we're doing right now at CheckShots would not have been possible or easy to do. But in this day and age, there's really no more sort of. I used to say that like internet sort of removed the geographical barrier between people, but AI really removed the skill barrier. Not completely. There's still inaccuracies and things, but it has removed a ton of that, right? So with AI, with adults, we are more than equipped, to run something like Curiosity Lab anywhere in the world.
I'm wondering from a from an adult's perspective too. What does the higher education for Curiosity Labs look like? Because you're right. I mean, AI is something personally that I remember when it was
Mm.
first rolled out, and this is me probably being a typical AnCap, typical skeptic. When AI first started coming out and everyone was going crazy about Chat GPT, I kind of just scoffed at it. I'm like, like I would go on Chat GPT and then I would say, type in, what's the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? And of course, it would come
Mm.
back with an answer on how like Joe Biden's an angel and like how I don't think it would talk trash on Trump, but it would
Yeah.
be like Trump is the president,
Yeah.
and then it'd be like Joe
Right.
Biden is the savior of the world. I'm like, okay, so
Right.
this is BS. But I
Right.
kind of I've taken that back a little bit. I do think that
Yeah.
whoever whatever robots are running this thing, they're a little bit biased, but I've saved so much time or just over the past like 5 6 months on Chat GPT and other variations of AI. For shameless plug here too for anyone tuned in, I know our team at AnCap Radio loves this. In fact, we're probably going to make a theme for our station here soon using this app. It's called Suno. I don't know if you've heard of Suno. Boon, but Suno. It's a
Okay.
lot of fun. You just tell the computer, what kind of song you want, and it literally makes it with like a catchy hook and everything. So, anyways, yeah, I'm curious, like, what type of higher education offers are you thinking in
Yeah.
AI and just other realms for adults?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a good question. I was a friend of mine just kind of talking about the other day. So, hey, what do you think kids and adults should be learning these days with the sort of, the uprising of AI? I don't have a full-blown, well-thought-out answer to this, but I do know a couple things. One is, first of all, if you look at what AI cannot do right now, right? There's no biological sort of form. Like there's no physical form right now, at least. I mean, unless you're talking about full-blown robots. So in terms of AI and people, math, calculator, AI, they can do it, right? Programming to some extent now, right? Larger and larger extent over time. But there are a lot of things that a person has to optimize that AI cannot do, like your mental health, your physical health, the your mental framework, how you see the world. All those things have to be taught. I mean, if you think about it, a simple thing. I have so many friends right now going through divorce right now in my circle. I'm like, what happened there? Why have we not taught kids and adults the tools that they need to manage the relationships better? There's just something, I mean, if you look at the statistics of divorce, there's something wrong about education there. There's just no way. I mean, either that, first of all, education didn't teach you to know how to pick the right partner. That's one cause. Or that maybe you pick the right partner, but you don't know how to manage the relationship. So, that's why I think everything comes back down to the fundamentals. Probably as fundamental as, do you know how to even breathe? Like because these things as habit, you have to train yourself. So do you know how to breathe? Do you know how to quiet your mind? Like, do you know how to be in a quiet state? Can you spend time alone by yourself? Like all those things are not being taught. Do you know how to listen? Truly listen. Just sit there and listen to someone that maybe saying things that you completely disagree with. Especially with like communication between opposite sex. There's a lot of different sort of things that you need in order for you to not to get into an argument, for example, or in order for you to have the tools to deal with the differences, right? So all these things, I think funny thing is that we're not actually talking about you people learning new things. Actually, I think we are actually talking about people learning things that should have learned years ago in school, but they were never taught. So I think with AI, it actually frees us up to learn those things. And yeah, I think AI is great in the sense that if we use it correctly, it could really free us up and let us become more human. Let us become a more optimal human, if we give ourselves the chance to do so.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into AnCap Radio. By the way, we're joined today by Boon Chu, founder of CuriosityLab.ai. Make sure, if you haven't already, check out all the links in the thread, everything down below. We got a lot of cool things cooking here today. We're going to be going for another another 15 minutes here. So if you do have a question or comment for Boon, all you got to do is tap the request button, bottom left corner. We'll get you up here. And if you're on the replay or with us live and you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the retweet button, follow everyone up here on stage. Let's get back to it. So, yeah, just to validate what you're saying, Boone, AI. um, to me, it's just really cool how much it's going to speed. It's going to speed up execution. And if there's anything I've learned just about business in general, like the most successful companies and businesses, everything, schools, the ones who can get things done the fastest win. I always use a metaphor my dad used to say, and none of us in my family played American football like at a high level, but actually I don't think,
Mm,
now I'm thinking about it, I never played it besides in the playground. But he's like, what's the difference between a cornerback or any position in college versus one in the NFL? And a
mm.
lot of the times it comes down to one thing, and that's speed. Like the level of speed is just at a whole different ballpark, literally. And so the faster you can get things done, the better. And that's kind of the world we're living in with AI. So I see on the website you got job openings, and we talked a little bit about that, how people can get involved, etc. But like, let's talk about needs, wants, however you want to phrase it. Like, what could you use right now to help scale this faster? Because I'm sure we got some people in the audience that would be willing to reach out.
Yeah, so the job openings on the site is, like I'm targeting those for kids as well because I want the school to be. I really want the kids to like. If you look at a regular school right now, the kids are like kind of subservient to the teachers and the school administrators, right? I want it to be the other way around. Like kids are like the bosses. They're like they drive, right? They get to decide on like things, and so the job openings is because of at the time for me to get more kids and teens to be involved in Curiosity Lab and help shape education to help shape the execution of things, including the quest that we craft. So, but we need all the help in the world. I'm talking to experts, educators, people from different walks of life, including my friend Chad, who is in the audience. He's a famous songwriter, and he's going to be helping me on some of the quests that we'll be doing. And he has his own connections. He's also helping me with one. He's actually a key member in one of our art projects called Ronin dot art. All so to your question, like we need help from all walks of life, like people who are willing to help and have the passion, because we the way I see it is that the kids are well, they are I mean in a prison right now if you think about it, and they don't know about it obviously because it's
Oh, I got to stop you there because and I don't know if we can we drop a link to Myron Golden again, team. I don't know if it's already in there. His YouTube channel. He calls schools government indoctrination camps all the time.
yeah.
And man, I'm just so happy that you said the schools are like prisons. It's easy for me to say as someone who hasn't had kids that are even like eligible to go to school yet, because I could understand how some parents like they get sucked into the system and then they learn about what we're talking about after their kids are already in grade 6, 7, 8. Like sometimes it's hard to unwind that familiarity and just completely pull them out. So I am sympathetic to that too. But man, I'm just look. I could see the school from like where we live right now out the window. Every time I look at that thing, I'm like, dude, that looks like a jail.
It is
Just
a
the way they
jail.
got the fence there, they got the bell ringing.
Yeah, yeah,
Recess,
yeah,
school lunches. It's
yeah.
just amen.
It is.
Keep
It
going.
is. You're right. I mean, even right down to the food that you eat, it's the same kind of food. I mean, you don't. I mean, so it's when you look at all that stuff, they're not really optimized for each person. They can't, right? The model can't. With AI, with proper sort of structure in place, you can create a different type of school, and that's why the school, for me, I think, in my opinion, is very hard to fix or reform. You need something brand new to replace it, and so yeah, so the way I see right now is that I think, you know, I need all the help in the world because every person that when I started the school, like with every new venture when you start, you're like, oh crap, how many customers can I get? How many, students can I get? You worry about that, right? But with this school, no, I have zero worry. When I launch it, I was like, if I can even get just one student, one learner, I'm good because that's one life saved, right? So it's not full time right now, but at least it's an effort towards showing them that what's possible and showing them that they can actually question the status quo. So I need all the help in the world from all walks of life to give me perspective, give me the skills, every their connections, all of that to make this to really help save kids from the current system. Yeah.
Love it. Oh, I do see, Chad. We're gonna get you up here soon. I see you get your hand raised. Looking forward to your question slash comment. I do want to say this too, though, team. If you guys could just head over to the website and pull this, drop it in the chat below. Anyone who has questions for job openings, applications, etc., you can send an email to jobs@curiositylab.ai. That's jobs@curiositylab.ai. For inquiries, Chad, one moment here while we get you up on stage. I know there's always a little weird phase here when he's connecting. He might not hear what we're saying, so we'll give it a couple moments here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Perfect timing. All right. So Chad, you're up here, man. Good to have you on. Could you just let us know where you're calling in from and what your question is?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm actually in a recording studio right now in Los Angeles, waiting for a session to start. um,
Love it.
I just wanted to make a comment and also, can you go grab him?
Yeah.
Fabian's outside. Make a comment and also ask a question. My comment is, I met Boon almost a year ago, and we're doing a whole bunch of things together now. And he's one of the most passionate, driven people that I've ever met. Um, he reminds me a lot of myself, but with a whole different personality, if that makes sense. It's a pleasure.
I love it, man. Good to
It's a
have you here.
pleasure to work with him. My question, though, was I might have even told Boone this story when he first started talking about Curiosity Lab. I have a 16-year-old, um, and when we first started wanting to put him into the school system, I'm Canadian but live in the States, so I grew up in the Canadian school system, which is
Oh,
which,
nice. I'm American, living in Hamilton to be
oh,
specific.
there you go.
So shout out.
I'm from
Yeah.
Newfoundland. So yeah.
No. Oh wait. Yeah. 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 Okay, Chad. I heard about you. So my wife is from Clarenville.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. Good to
Yeah,
meet
well,
you.
here I am. I'm sure Boone is laughing right now.
Yeah, I mentioned you. I mentioned you. I mentioned you from a couple days ago. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I lived in St. John's for 3 years. That's where we met, got married, all that good
oh
stuff.
wow,
So
dude, that's
love it.
incredible. My whole family are still there. I'm the only one that left, so my entire family are still home. I was just back,
You did.
I was just in Newfoundland back in October, and one of our artists that we signed to Ronin, one of the things that Boone and I are doing together, we shot our first series of Ronin documentaries in Newfoundland on that artist. So it's wild. Anyways, let me quickly say what I was going to say because I got to get moving. When we wanted to put our son in school, my ex wife and I met on a Broadway stage. We were both in the show Rent together, and uh, I was a very natural creative, and she was a learned creative. And we started looking at schools. I wanted him to go in this alternative school that we had here in LA that was um, it was very much like Curiosity Lab. It was driven by the kids. It was more about what their curiosity was and following that. And in the end, I lost that argument and he ended up going to a private Catholic school for 8 years. Whole different situation. But my question was to Boone, sorry, very long winded, was like in your long term goal, do you see Curiosity Lab as like a value add to the public system or to a private system? Or do you see it like eventually as a whole new way to educate?
Yeah, it's a whole new way to educate. um, because there's no good alternative. I mean, there are some alternatives right now. Actually, but I think we need more options. And it's risky, right? Like you lost that your argument with your ex-wife on where to send your kids your son to, and this is happening across the board right now, even to this day, right? And so I think, and so it takes time to build that credibility to say it's actually not risky. It's actually more high risk for you to send your kids to, to traditional school. So the answer to that question is absolutely. We need to have a full-blown school that replaces the current education system, because it will be more and more obvious over time that the current system is not going to survive the new world.
I think another thing that will emerge from Curiosity Labs as it continues to grow and just as time goes by too is really the resume and the caliber of students it produces. Once people start seeing a trend of who's coming out of this, which I'm confident just based on the model, it's going to create some rock stars, or just help move certain rock stars forward. So, I like Chad's question there, Boone, because I could see, one of the best ways to get massive adoption or awareness or whatever you want to call it would be, in some cases, to come in as supplementary to a traditional system while still growing the core. So, I mean, do you see that type of approach, or do you think it would
Yeah,
just stick with the one core?
so there's not much value in the traditional system as far as I can see anymore. Right? So the only value that I can see to supplement it is to make it so that we show the parents that you're not gonna lose anything if you switch over. You're gonna gain. You're only gonna gain, right? It's not like if you switch over, you have to give up something. So the way to prove that is to say, hey, with this new system right now, when we do blended learning, whatever approach that we're taking, your kids can actually progress much, much faster, and they can be a more wholesome person, because they have more time now to do other things and not get tied up with homework and stuff like that. So yes, the supplementary side of things will be there just to show people that this new system can work without them having to sacrifice anything. But it's not really there because it's a better way to go. A better way to go would be tomorrow everyone wakes up, be like, yeah, this old system doesn't work. Let me switch over to the new system. And then right away they will see that the new system works better in every single way. I mean, just look at the overall sort of mental health crisis among the teens. The current school system, just doesn't take much to really do better than that. And a lot of people who hate schools, they blame themselves instead of the school for that. So there's just a lot of suffering, unnecessary suffering right now happening in the current system that we need to sort of fix right away.
Yeah, and Chad, I see you got another question there, so
Yeah, I
go
was
right
going to say,
ahead.
well, first off, I lost that argument because I was married to a Sicilian. That's why I lost that argument. but no, but seriously, when we were having it, um, it's funny. I've always kind of had the viewpoint on children as that, my parents used to say we didn't raise our kids not to do things, we raised our kids to be able to handle it. And I think there's a fundamental difference between the type of personality, and I'm not trying to come down on my ex-wife or anything, but kind of is bought into that. No, we give them to this people, and these people raise our children. And it was so like black and white for her, of the fear of like, okay, well, what if we put them in this creative school, and like that was the wrong thing to do? And I'm like, yeah, but we'll be raising him, so how can it be the wrong thing to do? It's not the school that's raising him. They're trying to do this and that, and we are the ones that are raising our child. So I really wanted to take that chance and just like put him in something completely different, because I knew that the child we were raising would take advantage of that. So I think you need to have that engagement of a parent as well to to understand why a school like this would be as advantageous as I think it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I can relate to what you're saying too, just because, like, I'd say thankfully I was in a relationship that before I met my wife where we didn't see eye to eye on things like that, and I didn't know. I had to go through experience to figure out kind of how to vet that up front moving forward, and so. And you'd be shocked, Chad. I think you remember when COVID rolled out, and I don't know where you stand on all this stuff, but Newfoundland was like, the most vaccinated province by like percentage or something like that. And so, like, when I first met my wife, like, there's a couple core questions I asked her, or just told her. Like, one, just so you know, I'm crazy. Like, there's a lot of things that I believe that like your average person doesn't believe. Like, I need you to be cool with that. She's like, yeah. And anyone will say yeah up front, but like she really realized over time, I guess you could say I'm crazy. That's why we're all AnCaps. But then also, one question I'll never forget asking is like, are you on any form of like prescription medication? And not that that's a deal breaker for me, but like that was one thing that I
I
noticed
thought
like
I thought you
in
were
other
asking me. I
other.
thought you were asking me that. I was like, whoa, relax, man.
No, no, but like these are things that I know like fundamentally it's going to tell me who I'm with, and just like any relationships, like we have our ups and our downs, but I know like my wife, we're aligned philosophically for the most part. I think it's also kind of hard or impossible or even not fun to have someone who's 100% on board with you with everything. It's good to have a little bit of differentiation, but like Boone, you were talking about teaching a course about finding the right partner and stuff. Like these are some core things that I think people do accidentally overlook, and it can really like come back to get
Guys,
you.
I got to run because my session is starting, but I just wanted to say thank you, and it was really awesome to join you guys.
Hey, Chad, moving to LA, I got to say it took the accent away from you there, bud, didn't it?
Well, watch out. We're
You
we're
lost your
super
accent there,
we're,
bud.
we're super vaccinated down here, so I don't know if you want to come down.
See you, Chad. Thank you so much for coming.
Good talking to you, Chad. Awesome. I don't know if you heard me because we were talking over each other. But to your point, Boone, I was dropping some Newfoundland slang on him there. I said, "You lost your accent there, didn't you, bud?" Because that's like kind of how they say things. So, anyways, we're winding it down here. I think. Did you have anything else you wanted to say there specifically, Boone? I got one more for you, but let me know if you had something you wanted to say.
No, nothing much. This topic I can talk for hours, and I'm still learning a ton every day. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer the last question.
I see also on the website you had something about content creation too. So whatever you guys want to do with this, chop it up, turn it into other, marketing, promotional stuff. Have at it.
Cool.
Honestly, anything on this channel, you don't even need to ask, dude. Just let it rip.
Cool.
But my one thing I want to say to just kind of bring it down for a landing, or question I have for you is really now that we had some time to just talk about everything here today, like what do you feel like was the number one thing you learned today? What do you feel like is your biggest takeaway from the conversation?
I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is that if you, I mean, there are a couple things that are big takeaways for me. One is that when I'm doing Curiosity Lab, I just cannot help but notice how unique everyone is, right? The kids and of course adults, right? We're all unique, but of course we kind of become a little less unique in the sense that the school is treating us by ignoring our uniqueness, right? So um, that's why job description, right? Instead of job fitting you, you have to fit the job description. And so I notice that a lot when I'm in a session with the kids. I'm just blown away by the unique nature of them. Everyone is so different as different fingerprints. And so that's makes it me believe that the new way of things have to happen. I'm not saying that the new school or whatever school that is out there is right for everyone, but there have to be options for people to choose. So that's one big takeaway from the school itself. The takeaway from this talk is that I think there are a lot more like-minded people that are questioning the things that are happening. Education is really one of the biggest things aside from healthcare in our lives. So it's very encouraging for me to be getting into a channel like that, to be discovering people that that are open, right? That they don't believe the status quo. They are open to uh, you know examining the current way of things and looking at new way of doing things. So that's what keeps me going, because if not, it's very hard to do something uh, as big as trying to replace an education system that has not been changed for quite some time. So for me, the big takeaway is that knowing that there's a huge community out there, um, of AnCap that have this mindset to really be, like challenging the status quo and questioning things. It's very encouraging for me because it gives me that sort of the power to say, there's a ton of people behind me that will, not just support but help what I do, because this is not a one man endeavor. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm right there with you, man. It's so energizing to come across people like you. Like and we got people on our team too, as we talked about earlier, who when all this began, like they didn't even realize, or you didn't even realize that the way to kind of refer to yourself as an ANCAP. And one thing you said before I went live, actually, maybe you did say it on the show too, is like we always need to be assessing ourselves as like who we quote unquote identify as and like what we believe in. So even for us to label ourselves as ANCAPs, I would say in many ways is also incorrect, but it's something that we can use to kind of bring things together here. So I just think to you as a shining example, there's so many other boons and like-minded folks out there that are wondering, like, why is all of this seem like BS? I don't want to vote for anyone. Like, why do I have to do this a traditional way? But they don't know that, like, they can actually kind of find a source, a voice. And that's our whole mission here at AnCap Radio. So, to your point, dude, I think the fun has just begun, and thankfully, because of things like COVID,
Yeah.
like that's actually what spurred the creation of all of this. So,
Mm.
for what it's worth, like the more the state wants to try and oppress people, I say bring it on, because I think it's only going to make what we're doing even better.
Can you hear me okay there?
It looks like you cut out there for a moment, but we are coming up on the top of the hour there. So go ahead. Final thoughts, remarks,
Yeah,
if you
I
do have
mean,
anything.
I just want to, you mentioned COVID. I just want to bring up something real quick, that when I structured
Yeah,
the
go
lecture
ahead.
studio 10 years ago, 13 years ago, it was COVID ready from day one. Everyone works from um, remote, like distributed team at whatever time they like. And it took like a big event like COVID to really change the way people, sort of be, like challenge like the way people look at how work should be performed. So yeah, so you brought that up, so that kind of reminded me of how sometimes it takes a certain big force to happen for true transformation to take place at a large scale. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is going to be a little bit of a time consuming task for our team, but I'm confident you guys can find it. You know what? I'll make it easier for you. I took a clip from it and I put it into my own podcast. It's buried somewhere on Dream Chasers, my other show. But if you just type in Doug Casey Donahue interview to our team, I'd love for you guys to drop that down below, because that does show, like, especially Boone, once you see this kind of interview that Doug did when he was like, our age, like he's in his 30s. He was talking about how, like, voting was an immoral act in like the 1970s. Way before anyone was like even considering challenging the state. Doug was out there doing it,
Mm,
and he's
mm.
co-founder of AnCap Radio and a lot of what we're doing. So yeah, team, if you could find, it's the Donahue interview with Doug Casey, drop that down below. It's some extra goodies for those tuned in. Good stuff, Boone. Really good stuff. Looking forward to just building our relationship, working on a lot of this stuff, especially with the school and beyond. So yeah, thank you for investing, your most valuable resource, your time.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Another episode of AnCap Radio in the books. As you know, we'll be back here next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. We've got some really cool guests lined up for the next couple months. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to have those updates coming. As you know, our partner is SWP in the Cayman Islands, Gold Storage Company. If you're not familiar with them, they do a show every Wednesday at noon. You can see all those in our thread as well. We love the team at SWP and what we're building with them as well. So remember, this is AnCap Radio, and all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level. Hit the like button, retweet button, go follow Boon. Go to CuriosityLab.ai. By the way, CuriosityLab.ai. Make sure you check it out. We'll see you next week. Thank you.